We just got a leaked phone call revealing the real reason Rodrygo wants to leave Real Madrid. One teammate said something to him that shattered their entire relationship. Stick until the end to hear the secret that forced his father to speak out. There was a moment during the Copa del Rey final against FC Barcelona when Real Madrid fell in extra time that whispers emerged. Whispers claiming that Rodrygo Silva de Goes had told members of Carlo Ancelotti's staff that he did not feel strong enough or emotionally ready to play. Even though his camp denied this, even though many dismissed the story as exaggerated gossip, the rumor clung to his name like smoke that refuses to leave a room. It lingered because people sensed something shifting within him long before they had the words to describe it. This was not where the story of his decline began, but it was the moment the world started paying attention to every step he took. What made this strange period even more unsettling was how subtle the unraveling appeared from the outside. A fever here, a withdrawn training session there, the sight of an academy player being chosen ahead of him on a match day. It was all small enough to overlook individually, yet heavy enough collectively to create the image of a player drifting from his place in the team. Carlo Ancelotti defended him publicly, calm as always, but beneath that calmness, people inside the club felt the tension rising. And nowhere was that tension clearer than in the voice of Eric Goes, Rodrygo's father, who also served as his agent. When he returned to Brazil at the season's end to recover his spirit among his family in childhood streets, Eric broke the silence. His frustration with how Real Madrid had treated his son spilled into the open. And in that moment, the quiet cracks between club and player widened. But the story cannot stay in the shadows of conflict for long, because the memory of who Rodrygo Silva de Goes once was, and in many ways still could be, remains too powerful to neglect. His rise did not begin in Europe, nor did it begin with a spotlight. It began in the same city that shaped legends of Brazilian football, in Santos, where barefoot boys sprint across beaches as if the wind itself were urging them toward destiny. Rodrygo was born in January 2001, and from the earliest years, observers saw a maturity in him that did not belong to a child. While others demanded attention with tricks, he played with a stillness that startled those who knew the chaos of youth football. It felt as though he understood the game from the inside out. When Santos offered him a pathway into the academy, he walked into its gates not as a boy following a dream, but as someone stepping into the life he already believed was his. At just 17, he became the youngest Brazilian ever to score in the Copa Libertadores, and the moment carried the feeling of inevitability more than surprise. By then, European giants had already circled like hawks, and in mid-2018, Real Madrid made their move, agreeing to pay an enormous sum between 45 and 54 million euros for a boy many had not yet watched on television. Real Madrid did not merely buy him. They invested faith in a future they believed would shape the next era of their attack. His arrival in Madrid in 2019 came just a year after Vinicius Jr. made the same journey. And in those early days, fans imagined a new Brazilian duo ready to lead them beyond the era of Cristiano Ronaldo. If Vinicius Jr. was the lightning, Rodrygo Silva de Goes was the calm behind the storm. And that calmness revealed itself immediately. On his La Liga debut, he scored with his very first touch, one of those moments that feels scripted by fate rather than chance. Soon after, he delivered a perfect hat-trick in the Champions League against Galatasaray. Left foot, right foot, header. Only Raul Gonzalez had ever done it younger. For a brief moment, the world believed Real Madrid had uncovered a prodigy capable of carrying them into a renewed age of European dominance. His first season did not transform him into a starter, but it left behind a sequence of moments that foretold what he could become. He scored a late winner against Inter Milan in the Champions League, announced himself as a young man unbothered by pressure, and contributed during the title run in Spain. But the legend of Rodrygo Silva de Goes, the version of him that lives in the voices of fans, would not emerge until 2022. The Champions League nights of that season transformed him. It was in the quarterfinal against Chelsea, when Real Madrid appeared moments away from elimination, that he stepped onto the pitch and shifted the direction of history. The pass from Luka Modric sliced through time itself, and Rodrygo's volley restored life to the Bernabéu. Yet even that dramatic strike was merely a prelude to the night that would define him forever. Manchester City arrived in the semi-finals with the calm arrogance of a team sculpted by destiny. And as the tie approached its end, Real Madrid seemed done, lost, finished. Then the ball found Rodrygo Silva de Goes inside the penalty area in stoppage time. The stadium inhaled. One goal. Seconds later, another. Two miracles in under a minute. Supporters clung to each other in disbelief as the ground shook beneath them. Pep Guardiola's men crumbled, and Real Madrid surged into extra time, finishing a comeback that will be recounted in football folklore for generations. That night transformed him from promising youngster to the comeback kid, a title he embraced, even tweeting it with a casual humor that only strengthened the affection fans felt for him. At just 21 years old, he placed himself alongside Cristiano Ronaldo and Alfredo Di Stefano in Champions League scoring efficiency. That was not coincidence. That was instinct shaped by courage. And yet the strange truth about Rodrygo Silva de Goes is that even at his peak, he lived in someone else's shadow. Vinicius Jr. had already become the face of Real Madrid's attack, carving open defenses with a fiery unpredictability that drew cameras and headlines. Rodrygo, despite sharing the same natural position on the left wing, was moved to the right or even into central roles when tactical necessity demanded it. He did not complain. He did not challenge. He carried the responsibility quietly, as if discipline were stitched into his skin. But the sacrifice came at a cost: rhythm, confidence, identity. Fans noticed that while Vinicius Jr. surged into superstardom and even challenged for the Ballon d'Or, Rodrygo's numbers remained modest, not because he lacked quality, but because he lived in a space never quite tailored for him. He endured it with grace. He smiled even when recognition passed him by. Even in moments when he dominated matches, such as a 5-1 win over Salzburg, in which he played the role of conductor and finisher, attention drifted toward the names whose shadows stretched farther than his own. On a night when he deserved man of the match, broadcasters gave it to someone else. And even Vinicius Jr. openly admitted the decision made no sense. For all his humility, Rodrygo could not entirely keep frustration from emerging in subtle ways. When Real Madrid announced their new attacking trio, Bellingham, Mbappe, Vinicius the world noticed an absence, no for Rodrygo. His own social media team responded with a now deleted post, suggesting the acronym should include him as well. It was meant playfully, he later insisted, but no one fully believed the explanation. There are wounds that speak, even when the voice tries to hide them. Observers have always noted how traditional Rodrygo's personality feels: quiet, respectful, almost too polite to ignite controversy. But there were rare glimpses of discontent, like the moment during a Copa del Rey match when he refused to shake Carlo Ancelotti's hand after being substituted. Ancelotti joked about it publicly, masking irritation behind humor, but he benched him the next match as a reminder that at Real Madrid, emotion must never overshadow hierarchy. Moments like that did not define Rodrygo, but they revealed small fractures beneath his composed exterior. As Real Madrid continued to evolve, the arrival of new stars complicated his place further. With Kylian Mbappe joining the club and Jude Bellingham becoming the team's centerpiece, the natural attacking spaces grew crowded. A new coach, Xabi Alonso, arrived with fresh ideas. At first, Alonso offered warmth, guidance, and attentive training sessions that made Rodrygo smile again. But football does not follow emotion. It follows utility, form, and system. Alonso began selecting younger players like Arda Güler and Gonzalo Garcia, not because they were better, but because he was constructing a long-term identity for the club. Suddenly, Rodrygo was no longer the future, but part of the uncertain present. His value remained enormous, worth upwards of 80 to 100 million euros, but value in football is a double-edged sword. A player worth that much, yet not guaranteed a starting role, becomes a strategic temptation. Sell high, restructure, reinvest. Real Madrid had done it before with Mesut Ozil and Angel Di Maria. Players adored by fans yet expendable in the ruthless logic of the boardroom. And for Rodrygo Silva de Goes, the temptation grew because his natural position belonged irrevocably to Vinicius Jr. Playing Rodrygo on the right was functional, but never optimal. Even he knew the truth. The left wing is where his instincts align with his heart, where he feels free instead of repurposed. But at Real Madrid, that space is owned. It is not available. It will not be available. This truth is what Premier League clubs recognized when they began circling him. Arsenal saw in him the left-sided anchor they needed. Manchester City imagined him under Pep Guardiola, molded into something exquisite. Liverpool viewed him as a natural successor to their aging wide men. Even clubs in Saudi Arabia, fueled by vast resources, monitored his situation. For the first time in years, Rodrygo had choices. But choices are dangerous when your heart remains tied to a place that no longer guarantees you the central role you crave. Still, to understand the weight of his decisions, the narrative must once again return to the beginning, not to childhood this time, but to the moment he realized how difficult expectations can be when they live on your shoulders every single day. It was never easy at Real Madrid. Few clubs demand as much. Few clubs forgive as little. As the seasons passed, Rodrygo learned that his consistency in La Liga never matched the magic he revealed in the Champions League. And more importantly, he learned that fans judge weekly performance more harshly than moments of brilliance. Against deep defensive lines, against teams who refuse to leave space, he struggled. His game thrives in transition, in moments when defenders backpedal and panic. But domestic football in Spain does not always offer that luxury. And as his league numbers stalled, Real Madrid quietly reshaped their plans, constructing squads that did not revolve around him. Not out of disrespect, but out of realism. Yet it is impossible to speak of Rodrygo Silva de Goes without acknowledging his character, the kind that wins admiration from teammates and supporters even when statistics fail him. He never positioned himself above the club. He never demanded the world acknowledge his achievements. Even in moments of frustration, he carried himself with dignity. But football is not built on dignity. It is built on adaptation. And the reality he faces now is not one of failure, but of crossroads. Does he choose the comfort of the Bernabéu with its trophies and legacy and memories that burn like white flame? Or does he seek a place where he is not a piece of a puzzle, but the image on the box? To remain is to accept humility. To leave is to embrace risk. What complicates the matter further is that Rodrygo is still only in his early 20s and age, when many players are just beginning to find clarity about who they are. He already owns multiple league titles, Champions League triumphs, and iconic goals. Yet the sense persists that the best version of him is still waiting to be unlocked, trapped somewhere between who he was allowed to be and who he truly is. If he stays, he will continue living in the gravitational pull of the brightest stars football has to offer. If he leaves, he may become one of those stars himself. The burden of that decision is not one he carries alone. His father, Eric, has always acted not just as an agent, but as a protector, aware of the emotional toll Real Madrid's internal politics can place on a young player. Their conversations echo the tension of a family caught between loyalty and opportunity, between nostalgia and ambition. Whether he chooses stillness or renewal, one truth remains. Rodrygo Silva de Goes is too gifted, too intelligent, and too brave not to find himself again. Tell me which club you think he should join right now. Let me know if Real Madrid is making a huge mistake. Follow for the next transfer leak we uncover. Drop your take on his true ceiling in the comments.